So in today's episode, Nancy and I talk about the resources that we found or found us after the dark night of our soul. We also encourage you and speak to the importance of bringing your learning back into the communities in which they probably need to be heard from you.
Welcome to Expansive Minds Podcast, Gateway to Freedom, a podcast where two friends, Aileen and Nancy, explore and expand beyond what they think they know in order to live a life of freedom. Thank you for joining us, and away we go.
Hello?
Hello, Nancy. It's so nice
We're
to see you in
here.
your fall brown.
I'm in
I
my
love it.
fall brown, which is
I
like
love it.
so old. And
love it.
like fashion people would say, you really got to get rid of that. But I'm like, but it's my fall, and why? And I'm comfy, and so anyway.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Keep it.
We've
I
been
love
in drowning in leaves and pine needles.
Oh, right, because I know your house. It's all the woods over
And
it.
then with the boys rugby, I've been at rugby tournaments probably from end of September.
Right,
So we haven't
right,
done
you have
anything else. So
time.
this,
Well, hopefully
it's
the
time to
snow
work
will
on the
cover
house.
it. Oh.
Ah, don't say the S word. Stop it. Stop it. Shh. La 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 la. All right, let's set the intention before we
right.
just jabber on about whatever. nothing quantum. Just jabbering. Okay. All right, off we go. All right, we set the intention today. I'm feeling today we want to be compassionate and radiate that compassion. There feels a little bit of, there has been a little bit of for a long time, but today we really set our intention of being grounded and compassionate in the hopes that that serves us all. And so it is.
Beautiful. That's great.
Awesome.
Wonderful.
Thank you. So,
Yeah.
what are you thinking? You've got your blue.
I'm
so
realizing all
we've
blue.
got our Archangel Michael theme going. I love my Michael. Love my Michael.
Yeah, I know. I was looking at our color, a color scheme.
Michael with the
So, yeah, I was thinking about the movie that one of my clients sent me that I hadn't seen before.
I watched a
Finding
bit of it.
Joe.
Finding Joe.
Yeah,
I didn't get to
beautiful.
that. Okay.
And what was great is she sent it to me and said her son, who's in middle school, her son's teacher was going to show it. I don't know what academic study, like, was it English class? I don't know what class it was, but so anyway, I watched it. It was great.
So I'd love to hear about it. I only read the beginning. I got as far as the hero's journey and how the hero's journey in life basically
love how they
reflects
did that.
us. It's just like from your point of start to immersion to
The threshold,
come back home.
and then then
yeah.
coming back home. So yes, so to the point of that movie also made me think to have this be a resourcing podcast where we talk about some of the books, the movies, the ways that we've been inspired. So the theme of the movie I'm talking about, Finding Joe, talks about what we would refer to as the dark night of the soul. I don't think they use the term dark night of the soul in the movie, but it's the hero's
funny
journey.
that she sent it to you
Right after we
had the
about
Dark
it.
Night of the Soul discussion.
Right?
Right?
I mean, no coincidences, right?
None.
No coincidences. So in this, it talks about the hero's journey, brings up Joseph Campbell, and just that whole cycle, which we talked about going to the dark night of the soul, and this movie said the same thing we said at the end of our podcast, which is to say, usually we end up having some kind of what we perceive as a crisis, some kind of trauma. And when we were talking to Lissa,
Yes.
that was her son dying.
Yeah.
Right? And that was the trauma that just like, and then
ripped
it's
everything
this
apart.
journey. You have to then go out. You have to go outside of what you know. You're blown outside of your comfort.
Yep.
And then it's this piece about the immersion, the journey, the walkabout.
Yeah.
In
And
Australian
they showed
language.
clips of movies just to give folks an idea of what they were
Yes.
talking about as a hero. Luke Skywalker.
Mm-hmm.
So I can't recall what the first phase was. Something about, but it was basically your starting point, right? So Luke
Right.
is
The
living
crisis,
with his parents. He's
yeah.
just living with his parents, and then he gets immersed.
Yeah, right.
Right, so now he's immersed in study of the Force. And
Oh, because, well, the crisis was when he came home, when he went back to his house, it was all burned.
Right, so
It had
that
been
forced him out of,
Yes,
right, so that forced him
exactly.
out of his steady state.
Right.
In immersion into this craft of studying the Force or defeating Vader, because then at the end of 3, they show him coming home to Leia. So there's always a retreat. And the same thing with Lord of the Rings, the Hobbits. Right? They're in their little steady state. They get yanked out, and now they're returning the ring, and then they head home. So it's that's the hero's
The Wizard
journey.
of Oz. And
the
what
Wizard of Oz.
Right. And what I
Good one,
love about it, that brings in the earth and the spiritual, the heaven and the earth, right? Because there was a time, and you and I have talked about when it was like, oh, the ego, the earth is blah, like you just want to be in spirit, but you can't just be in spirit because we have bodies and we have, we're here. So I really loved the part where they talk about, they draw this cool circle and they talk about, you go out on that adventure, you go out on that learning and all these really cool descriptive words and what that's like on that journey. And then you come home to share the treasure. You come home to share what you've learned with others.
And now Joseph Campbell, they
talk about Joseph Campbell.
He
The hero's
is
journey.
a philosopher.
Yeah, philosopher, mysticist. Like he was the one that just sort of was like, I'm going to talk about this. Like I'm studying it. He had, that was, I think, his sharing of his hero's journey, right?
Okay, yeah.
He went out and this was something that was so important to him to learn about philosophies, religions, which is part of, again, what I'm thinking about sharing with the resources.
Yeah.
And the first, for me, my big first dark night of the soul, of course, was having 2 children, not really being ready for it, and then choosing not to drink or do any, I was like, I'm not going to do alcohol, I'm not going to do drugs.
Can I share the story you told me? I didn't mean to interrupt, but when you talked about, I don't know if this was the dark night of the soul or equivalent to it, but being our Italian Catholic correlation, and I was struggling with my religion, just didn't feel, I wasn't taking peace in it as much anymore because I've found these wonderful concepts of high spirituality and unconditional love, and then I would go to church and depending on who the priest was, I'm going to get punished for, I'm like, that just does not compute with unconditional love, that I have to behave a certain way to please somebody if he's that high a being.
Right.
Why would I need to please? And so it would go and I wasn't enjoying it. And you told me how you were on Nantucket and one night you had a blue plastic cross. I don't want to misinterpret. I'm not even going to try because it's your story. And you broke it or something. I went, and you went, and I'm still here.
Yes!
And I'm still here. Like you broke the cross and you're like, and look at my face, I'm still here. And I remember I'm on the table going, well, we're gonna get struck now if we keep going. I remember that in one of our sessions so distinctly.
Yes, and that was part of
was
that
that part of
journey.
your?
You're absolutely right. The first.
So give us more.
Okay, so because that was such a great story.
Yeah.
So I'm having this blowout, right? And I decided to go to 12-step meetings. And again, it's a spiritual program. It's like you're trying to have a spiritual awakening. It's right there in the big book. And then you get these promises, and the promises are basically freedom, feeling free and manifesting and all that kind of stuff. So anyway, so I'm going through this process, and one of the first books that came to me during that process was called The Feminine Face of God.
Okay.
And also during that process, like a spiritual feminist, womanist vibe started happening on Nantucket. So it worked out perfect for me, like to go down the path. But within that, yes, I'm on Nantucket. I'm blown open. I don't really kind of know what's going on, but I know I've got to do things differently. I've got to let go of it all. And I looked on my dresser, and there was this plastic. It was a white cross with this sort of pearly stuff, and then like a silver
blue tinge or something.
It had like this little
bluey,
and then there was a golden crucified Jesus on it. And I looked and I thought, I've had that since I was a kid. So I was living in New Jersey, and it was hung up on the wall in my room. And like I haven't brought it to college, but like I put it in my drawer, you know? And I thought, what am I doing with it? Like, why do I have this? And I thought, it's not Jesus. Like, it's a piece of plastic that got sold. And yes, it was this whole thing. I was cleaning up my room, so I had this big garbage bag, and I was holding it in my hand, and I realized that I was really afraid. The reason I had it wasn't because I loved it, it was because I was afraid to not have it.
Yes, that was me with crucifix. For the longest time, I couldn't lay my head down without a crucifix over my bed.
Yeah.
And much to my family's horror, I have a dream catcher in my room now, and not a, I wear a cross, and I talk to Jesus every day and every night and before I go to sleep, but I don't have a crucifix.
Because it's right. We talked one time.
Because it makes for fear, right? So it's like if I'm putting it up to protect me, I'm predispositioning myself to an attack. I'm pre-planning some kind of attack if I have this symbol up to protect me when he's right here. He's right here.
Right. Plus, I was afraid to not have it because I don't know, like, did I not want to go to hell? Like, it felt like it was like, hey, you're right there. Hey, you're like, look, everybody, I got it right here. Like, there was something about it.
And if you throw it away, or what do you got to do? If you don't want it anymore, I can't tell you how many crucifixes I have in my attic because I can't throw them away.
Oh, well, so maybe it's going back up as you go to your attic. So I picked it up and I looked at it and I just thought, I don't need this. Like, this is not here for a good reason. And because I was so afraid to do it, and somehow in this spiritual awakening, I knew I wanted to move away from fear. Like, I was like, get fear out of my life. So I took it, and I mean, I was surprised at how easy it snapped. Maybe I was just super strong in the moment. I don't know. But I took it and I went, snap.
And when you told me that story on the table, I went,
I panicked.
You didn't.
And then I did. Shoved it in the trash bag. I was like, oh. And then I put the trash out. But that night I slept like this. Because I had seen The Exorcist when I was in high school. I was like this. I was so nervous.
I just opened the door.
And then I got up the next day and I was like, oh my God, I feel amazing. Like nothing terrible happened. I have to say, our disclaimer, we are not advocating destruction of religious artifacts. We're not advocating that. We are saying, watch the symbolism and because we talked about our attachment episode. What are you attached to and why?
And how could such a thing have such power over your
and it was the
demeanor.
Plastic thing. It wasn't the concept. It wasn't Jesus. It wasn't, for me, it wasn't Catholicism. I got so many great things from that. It was this plastic thing where I just felt it was like, what am I doing? This isn't really, this isn't an important thing. And again, because I had it because it was fear-based.
Yeah. And I will say, when I let go of a lot of those fear-based things, I have the best, which is listening to a Crying on the Ride up here. He was talking about organized religion, and he said, you have access to him right now. You don't need to talk to a priest, to talk to a deacon, to talk to whatever the hierarchy. You can talk to him like now, like all the time. And so for me, I'm the closest. My sister and brother still go to church, and it brings them peace, and they enjoy it.
Right.
But I'm on my porch every day. And I don't just go to church once a week, be in that upliftment, and then come home back to normal. I try to live it every day.
Right.
Every day. I have a better relationship with Jesus and God than I've ever had. Now that I let go of these constructs and rules and misconceptions and mistranslations.
Right.
It's just me and him now. It's
I
awesome.
When we were talking, it just made me think about, remember going into confession? And like, I would go in, I could still say what you say, bless me, Father, Father, Son. But then I remember being like, now I felt so much pressure to come up with terrible things I did. Yeah. And sometimes I would just lie. I'd be like, and then you have to go back into confession because you lied in confession. I was like this. I was like, I swore at my mom once. I mean, you got to like do your time, and you can't just go in and leave because they're like, I don't think. You got to like have a decent time of sharing your terrible behaviors.
I'm flashing to one of my favorite movies, Moonstruck.
Moonstruck.
When Cher goes into the confessional. She said, I swore one time, I missed Mass one time, and I slept with my fiance's brother. And he's like, let's go to that one.
You can't slide that one in.
Yeah.
And then after you come out, then you go up and you're like, you have to kneel.
Yeah.
And then it's like, okay, how many Hail Mary, like, what do I have to say? And then there was always, like, in Catholic school, there's a little competition a little bit, like, oh, what do you have to say? What do you have to say? You know, like, kind of ranking your sins by how many things you had to say.
It feels like forever.
All good memories,
Doesn't
though,
it feel like forever
in some ways.
ago?
To
Feels
be
like
that little? Oh.
Just that mindset feels like forever ago.
Yeah.
That mindset.
That's the part about taking in any kind of resource, right? Anything that we see is like, take that piece that resonates and let go of the rest, because it's like trusting that there is a gem in there somewhere.
Yeah.
And it doesn't have to be
right.
It doesn't have to be exactly how the author said it or the religion said it or whatever, but it's like, what really is the gem here?
Yeah.
You know, and hold on to that. And going back to the feminine face of God.
Yeah.
That was such a great experience. I don't remember who told me. Well, I think it was just on Nantucket, this group of women who moved from feminism, womanism into the spiritual aspect of it. And then from there, I read, The Myths of Avalon, and it was this empowering, mystical, magical woman, goddessy vibe that I had not experienced before and had not really been out there before. And so then I went off and did training to do goddess workshops.
Oh, wow. You really dove into the feminine.
It was so beautiful. And I had a core group of women, and we did all sorts of great stuff. And then from that, we started a book club.
That's awesome.
Which was really nice. So to share the resources with others.
But it started from your point of base, which was Catholicism. So I didn't go the goddess route, but after I started leaning away from the structure of church, I dove into Jesus. Really, if you look into him as a historical figure, healer, master sage, that's fascinating. And if you read the Bible just as you interpret the Bible and what Jesus said, you'll have completely different interpretations than how it comes through a third party of a structured religion, I think. So yeah, I became closer to Jesus than ever when I let go of some of the constructs and some of the rigid rules and consequences.
Were there some books, so like resources, were there things that enlightened you? Like for me, I was at a Unitarian Universalist church, so that's the I loved the idea of a community. So I did join a UU church on Nantucket, and the minister, he was really great. And ironically, a UU minister giving me kind of this really aha moment about Jesus. So he was kind of a resource in a way when he talked about the political, rebellious nature of Jesus. And he really put it in this perspective, like really think about this guy standing up and changing. And it was like, whoa, and there was something about that just had me blown away.
We used to have one priest at the parish, I think it was after he left that I kind of lost. He did he would read scripture and he would say, now what you have to understand at the time was going on politically, this was happening. So if Jesus said this,
really
but it was so cool because it brought the perspective of just how brave he was, or how out of the box he was. And then that was when he left, and then more conventional priests came in. But it was Eckhart Tolle. Eckhart, who he often refers to Jesus. And he'll say, well, what Jesus really meant by that, the kingdom of heaven is at hand. Well, what Jesus really meant by that. The meek shall, and he interprets what he really meant, which is so much, that makes more sense, kind of. Like, yes, of course, such an enlightened man would mean it to be this, which is a kind thing and not a threat.
Exactly.
It was Eckhart who helped me dive into Jesus a little more.
But that makes me think about, in another podcast, when we talked about The Dark Night of the Soul, you talked about buying that book. His book. So you went from that, and how cool and interesting that it was your connection And the resource was that book, and it opened up for you.
It's still by my bedstead. It's still, I think your first teacher is still, and especially The Power of Now, is so easy. It doesn't read in chronology. So it is this compilation of his lectures. People would come to him and ask him questions, and he would answer them, and then they copied it down and bound it into The Power of Now. So you can just say, oh, that's right. That one's by the bed, and Louise Hay. And I go to each of them at least once a week. Like Colin got conjunctivitis this week, and so I'm like, hang on, I like take a picture of my Louise Hay book. Say these mantras. I don't care if you don't believe it. Just as you're driving your bike to class, say these mantras.
So Louise Hay, Eckhart Tolle, The Power of Now. I'm thinking about, I really liked the movies that came out. What the Bleep Do We Know?
That was huge for me. Thank you for reminding me of that. And then I think we're probably getting close.
Yeah.
But that was huge. What the bleep don't we know? Huge. And one of the big takeaways in that was the water experiment.
Yes, Dr. Emoto.
Yeah. Do you want to share that?
Yeah, so Dr. Emoto did this experiment where he put water, just plain tap water, in jars.
It was from the Fujisawa Dam or something?
Well, there's all different, so it's kind of, there's some of that.
Yeah.
The experiment one was where he would put just plain water from the same source, so it would be as clean of an experiment as possible. Yeah. And he would put them like in a subway, and he would put words over them like love, kindness, hate, jealousy. And then he would ask people to look at it or hold it with that, just thinking about that emotion. And then he put the water, each specimen underneath a microscope, and the ones that have love, joy, bliss look like these beautiful snowflakes and crystals, and then the ones that hate, jealousy, and those kind of vibrations were all like
bubbly
and
even
dark and muted. And so his point being, if we're mostly water, as we've talked about before, then if we're saying positive words to ourselves, if we're channeling that through us, then we have our water and our insides of this beautiful crystals. But if we're saying self-hate and self-loathing words, then you know what that does to us.
And I will say, even now with the astrologers saying the position of the planet being in what it is, causing the energy to be where it is, that is now valid more than ever.
Yes.
Very
I
important
agree with you so much.
to be mindful of what you're projecting and to whom or what these days. So I think we might be close.
It's a time?
I think so.
Maybe. We're at 20 minutes.
Oh, we're at 20.
We're at 20 minutes.
Woo! Check us out. This is awesome for us.
It is awesome for us. So do you have any more resources? The Secret.
So The Secret was also in there.
The Seth
and
books,
then recent,
Jane Roberts.
Oh yes, Seth, and then also and Abraham Hicks.
Abraham
for me
Hicks,
was a huge,
Esther Hicks, Abraham Hicks.
Huge, and the one we recently talked about, which was Unacknowledged.
Unacknowledged.
And then maybe next time I just checked out a Tesla video from the library and a Tesla book.
We got to get into Tesla.
He's
coming up. There's important stuff.
There's way important stuff.
And maybe I want to see if I can track down David Bohm's last.
I'm not familiar with him, so I look forward to that.
Yeah,
but
he did a lot of talks with. Go ahead.
No.
He brought physics and spirituality together. He kept saying it wasn't just physics, so you would dig his stuff. I have a couple of. The Ending of Time is a great book too.
I was listening to a YouTube video where a gentleman was reading an interview with Tesla, and I'm going to try to summarize it, but it was something Einstein and Tesla disagreed.
They're physicists.
Physicists. All right. Another physicist fight, right?
Physicist fight. Fisticuffs.
So scary. Threatening. But so Newtonian physics with Einstein, but it was interesting. Tesla said, and I thought of you, energy first, then matter.
Yes.
As opposed to
matter
Einstein sort of playing
energy.
around, but that Tesla said that energy first, then matter. So anyway, I was catching up with our friend Vic today on a call, and I'm like, I'm so interested in Tesla, and I got checked out a couple stuff from the library.
Yeah.
And he's like, really? And of course, he's like a little busy guy.
Totally.
And so he gets online and he goes, did you know that Tesla said he was visited by aliens? I'm like, I love him even more. Could I have not already loved him enough?
Yes.
I had no idea that he had.
That's
I
your
know
guy.
he said he believed in the lightning bolt, that there were celestial beings in lightning bolts. And Vic goes, oh, like Thor? I'm like, okay, I don't think that's maybe not what he
Well,
meant.
I mean, I guess if they look like that, who are we to complain?
Yeah, really. Bring on the lightning. So, but yeah, so we'll talk about our Tesla movie maybe.
Yeah.
We'll have to watch that. I'm trying to think of any.
Wilhelm
But
Reich was
unacknowledged,
inspiring.
the alien one recently.
You
which
like
is,
that
was
one?
New. I liked that one because I never thought about science being a result of our galactic friends' intervention assisting us.
Finding,
Yeah.
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 We haven't quite seen that technology
Not
yet.
yet. Well, right, we're 100 years behind, and just so happens that Tesla's research has been buried for 119 years.
Interesting.
Interesting. Right? He was all over it. He was all over it. Yeah. Almost pulling the energy out of the air. And he actually, back then, was pretty much talking about wireless cell towers.
Yes.
Back then.
Right.
So.
You look at all these people who were channeling genius.
Yeah. Absolutely.
The information is out there, and it's just being open to channeling it through.
And he gets these, like he used to get those downloads. I was listening to a cryon. Of course, it all sort of, as I'm in my Tesla mode, next thing I flip on a cryon, and it's talking about Tesla.
Of course.
And he said, he's back.
Oh.
And I'm like, really? I'm thinking as he's talking, he's like, he's back. We're not going to tell you who it is, but you can take a guess. So I'm pretty sure it's Musk.
Oh, wow.
I mean, he names his car after Tesla. I'm pretty sure it's him. No? You think it might be someone else?
It might be someone else.
But Musk would get the downloads very similar. When Musk describes some of the stuff that he does, he would do his inventions in his head.
Right.
Tesla would visualize them to completion in his head, and Musk does that. Maybe, maybe not. But he said Tesla's back.
He's here.
Yeah.
I mean, there's so many. Well, here's the thing. There's so many geniuses that aren't necessarily out big in the world. So you've got gallons and bucketfuls of geniuses.
Yeah, in their own little private lab.
Yes.
Yeah, not
doing
getting the
outstanding
notoriety.
things. Right. And they're doing patents, and they're doing stuff, and they're making great things happen for the world.
Got to get that stuff out there.
Yeah, right. That's the other part.
Yeah.
Creating it and then get out.
Any other ones any other resources?
I mean, there's just well, maybe we can think and just kind of throw some out again. I mean, there's the people that you like. I love Wilhelm Reich's work. He found orgone energy. He said that he found this other energy, and he created cloud busters and all sorts of. Said he could mess with the weather. So, and orgone boxes. Larry Dossey, medical doctor, power of prayer, talking about that. Laughter is the best medicine.
Joe Dispenza, becoming superhuman.
Bernie Siegel did Laughter is the Best Medicine, he was a medical doctor, started talking about how your attitude does matter, your thought process does matter. He would tell stories from hospitals. He would encourage patients to put notes on their doors to say, don't come in all, grim, come in, I want jokes, I want laughter, I want,
Love it.
Yeah, so there's some good ones.
Love it. Power versus Force. I forget who did that one. There was another one that I can't. Must not be important if it's not coming up. But lots of good stuff. Joseph Murphy, who was the subconscious power of the subconscious mind. He was big on affirmations. And again, this is like way back when these people were practicing this stuff. One of the first self-help gurus I found was Tony Robbins. Personal power was on cassette tape.
Yes.
Personal power, and he was all around it. Now he's all like hardcore finance and like but he used to do the
Carolyn May Smith.
Yeah.
I mean, there's so many. Harriet Lerner wrote some good stuff.
Who's the energy gal in Florida? Barbara
Brennan
from
Barbara. Yeah,
she's hardcore. I mean, like really interesting.
Yeah, it's interesting. A lot of great resources out there. I mean, you just go to a metaphysical store, or you can go into a Barnes and Noble and just hit that
And you don't have to
section.
go to the occult section anymore, like you used to.
Right, where it was like you
used to have to go to the occult.
Remember going to the library and being like, I have to,
Yeah,
that's the other thing.
it
A
was
lot of
felt
people
like you were
knew.
Harry Potter in the forbidden section. I'm gonna make sure
I
nobody's
don't even
looking
see
at
me, but look at
I'm
this
like,
cool
okay.
design. Like, I know
Yeah.
something more is there.
Yeah,
You
yeah.
know, most people who know
Yeah.
that there's something there, but that was kind of the only thing that we had access
Yeah.
to. You know,
Yeah.
Carlos Castaneda and the Don Juan books; those were big. The Celestine Prophecy, even though they're not necessarily like the best written books,
Yeah,
but
yeah.
I think they're a really good entrance. They're,
Yeah.
you know, he wrote a couple of those.
Okay.
The Path of the Peaceful Warrior. That was another good one. Just thinking kind of sort of really good
Yeah,
beginning books to start poking at stuff.
I think Louise Hay is a great beginning book.
I would totally agree with you.
Yeah, she was, and I have that book simply for the middle now. Like, I mean, I read the beginning with the concepts behind it and her journey, but right in the middle is that index of, you look up the symptom, it tells you what a probable cause may be manifesting that symptom, and then the mantras to recite to try to shift it.
Yep. Another one I'm thinking of, Byron Katie. Her
Yes.
work is so good. The questions,
She's
the
a no
turnaround.
nonsense kind of gal.
Yeah, she
was
is.
a little like, ugh, for me. She kind of scared me.
Yeah,
she was
she's-
just like a
Yep.
no.
She wants you to get it. She's like, not that I'm asking you to let go, but
yeah.
her work, and you can see her on YouTube. The books are good.
lot of good
Do I
stuff
really
on
need your
YouTube.
love? You know, but you can just grab it on YouTube.
Yeah.
And see her talk to people, I think the turnaround. I think those questions and the turnaround is really good. That really helped me.
Yeah.
Make it not about other people, not blaming other people, but realizing, oh, I'm projecting. I think this about myself. It isn't that person thinks that about me. I
The
think
mirror
that about
principle.
myself. Good
I
stuff.
love Greg Braden.
Yeah.
He's huge for me. Watch him all the time. Michael Sandler's adorable. Very upbeat. He'll go woohoo all the time when he's interviewing people. It's just fun to have. I go back. I cycle through all of them, depending on who I feel I need and when.
Ram Dass.
Excellent.
Ram Dass, good stuff
Excellent.
there.
Alan Watts.
Oh yeah, Alan
Love
Watts.
that voice. Oh my gosh, if you can find a YouTube video with Alan Watts. There's one meditation too where it's magical. That voice is fantastic.
Yeah, so there's a lot out there.
A lot of stuff.
And as you know, if you go on, YouTube or any kind of they'll just keep feeding you the same stuff. I mean, feeding you
it gets
similar.
Smarter to what
So
you like.
that's when you can use it to your advantage.
Yeah. So we probably should start to
I think, we can wrap
it up. If you want to sum up, and I'm just all of a sudden I'm flashing to. Do you ever see The Princess Bride?
Yes.
Do you want to sum up? There's no time. Let me explain. No, let me sum up. There's no time. I'm like, I'm getting these flashes of these movies now, fun movies, as I'm sitting here. It's like Moonstruck, Princess Bride. Okay.
We got the movie vibe out there.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think, we like to talk about the end. I think, have an adventure, go explore, right? Because that's really what we're talking about. When you have the dark night of the soul, it's because I think Death of a Salesman is like such the best expression of that, where he's not living his life, he's living other people's lives, and he's miserable. And at the end, spoiler alert, but if you haven't seen it yet, it's been around for a very long time. But he's dead. He's killed himself, and then they're looking at his the steps. They're looking at his masonry, and they're like, "Why didn't he just be a mason? He was a salesman because it was he never got to have his dark night of the soul.
Yeah.
He didn't go through that to say, this isn't what I want to do. I'm miserable, so therefore I don't want to do it." And as Joseph Campbell said, then you go to the next level. Then you realize what that was. You're free from it. But we have to fill ourselves with new ideas and new concepts and new things, because we've created a void. And a void will get filled up.
Yeah.
So if you don't bring all of these resources, if you don't go out and explore, that's the adventure part of it.
Okay.
And learn new things.
So that's the
It's
lesson.
gonna fall back in.
That's the lesson for the week: is take a hero's journey. Pull out of the ordinary, comfort, regular routine. Immerse in something.
Some of the resources we're talking about, movies, books. Ask your friends. I think maybe that's the biggest thing, is start owning. If you've done a dark night of the soul, if you're moving, looking to expand, be the brave one that says it to your friends or at your workplace, because I guarantee you're not the only one. And then when you build that relationship, the synergy, more resources happen, and you're just going to explode in a really good way.
And bring it back to share with the friends.
Right, exactly.
There endeth the lesson. Awesome. And as always,
More to be revealed.
Thank you for joining us on Expansive Minds podcast, Gateway to Freedom. Until next time, more to be revealed.